I'm Linda Crerar, and I'm the director of the Center of Excellence for Homeland Security Emergency Management. And we're part of the State Community and Technical College system. We're housed at Pierce College here in Washington State. And today is actually April is National Volunteer Month. And we want to recognize and honor the work of our many dedicated volunteers, like those who have been so instrumental in establishing, supporting, and implementing the Partners in Emergency Preparedness Conference every year. Volunteers have built this organization of many years, and it is important to understand the history of the organization and the contributions that volunteers have made to sustain it. We wanted to highlight Partners because of its successful work using community volunteers and help partners to build a stronger partnership in the emergency management field through encouragement, collaboration, and continuous education. Partners is a nonprofit charitable organization and is the largest and most successful regional emergency management preparedness conference in the Pacific Northwest. And what I'd like to do, we have three Partners members with us. And will you folks introduce yourselves? And Kellie, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Kellie Kasper, and I am the current chair for Partners in Emergency Preparedness. I'm actually a former chair and then a current chair, but we won't go into that. I'm also the owner of HTTU Consulting Services, where I help primarily organizations prepare their staff for what may come. I do a little dabbling in residential as well, but for the most part, I work with organizations. And with that, I will send it back to you, Linda.
Okay, well, we will go on to Gail. We'll let you go next.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gail Harris, and I'm on the Partners in Preparedness Committee, and I'm on the board as their sponsorship chair. I've been off and on the committee for, I don't know, 10, 11 years, and I've held a number of leadership roles with it. I too do consulting now that I've officially retired from public safety.
And
That's
Ted, you're last but not least.
All right, somebody's got to bat the last spot here. Ted Buehner is the name, and I am the vice chair with the Partners Emergency Preparedness Conference. I've been with the committee going back into the late 1990s, and I worked with the National Weather Service for a little over 40 years, retired just a few years ago, and still staying very active, not only with the emergency management community, but with the weather community as well. I have a Tornado Ted LLC.
Thank you. Gail, why don't we start maybe with you and talk to us about the mission for Partners.
So our mission statement is building stronger partnerships in the emergency management field through encouragement, collaboration, and continuous education. So when we see all that come together, like at our conference, it's just like magic, problem solving going on out continuously.
And Ted, do you want to talk about a little of the history of Partners?
Yeah, of all the committee members, I'm the one that's been around the longest. It all started back in the mid-1990s. I came on board as the new warning coordination meteorologist for National Weather Service Seattle. And the first Western Washington Emergency Network conference I went to was in the spring of 1995. That was primarily a business sector emergency management type conference. Just a few weeks later, Washington State Emergency Management also held a conference. Both of these were in the month of April. And there was a lot of discussion about why are we holding these two conferences so close together? Why don't we bring them together? So in the spring of 1996, the Partners Conference, as we know it today, was born. And it brought together not only the State of Emergency Management and the Western Washington Emergency Network, but also the American Red Cross, a lot of fire education staff throughout the region, as well as King County Emergency Management. I came on board with the committee in 1997, and by that time we were adding other partners like schools and health and utilities and others. The conference itself, when we had WWEN, the State Emergency Management Conference, both of them were held at the Red Lion Inn down by SeaTac. As the conference grew, as we moved through the rest of the 1990s, it had to move to a larger venue. This was the DoubleTree in Bellevue. And then early in the 2000s, we outgrew that as well. So we moved to the Tacoma Convention Center and held it for a number of years. And most recently, we held it at the Linwood Convention Center. And I want to point out during the 1990s, there was a real need to help better educate and better prepare the community as a whole. We had a string of significant events that occurred in our region here. For instance, the 1993 Inauguration Day windstorm, the December 14th, 1995 windstorms, the Duval earthquake in January of 96, the Satsuma earthquake in July of 1999. It was clear that there needed to be a far stronger effort on both the public side and the private side to get communities better prepared for these kinds of events and more. And that is what the Partners Conference has been doing ever since.
Wow. So, Gail, will you follow up with just a little bit more on kind of the purpose and structure of the annual conference, and if you also can talk about the role of your volunteers and your committee members as part of that?
Sure. Well, the official purpose of Partners in Emergency Preparedness is to organize and conduct an annual emergency education conference every year, usually held in April, and other educational activities in the field of emergency management. And we do that by, Ted and I host a webinar every month. We started in July of 2020 when we couldn't do the conference in 2020, and sort of been doing it ever since. So to keep us relevant and have some relevant topics. As far as the structure of the conference and the committee, we bring in a group of diverse people that we can. We try to get a good mix of private sector, public sector, and others like NGOs and maybe tribal members and utilities and people working in risk management in private sector. And you bring them all together to help get the best lessons learned in the areas of responding to disasters. So I think when you bring a diverse group of people and organizations together with their nexus being that they're preparing for responding to or mitigating and recovering from emergencies, big and small, you can solve problems. And that's what we work for.
Are all of these people involved are volunteers, correct?
Yes, everybody's a volunteer. Nobody's compensated.
Oh, yeah. And that's critically important. And Ted, do you want to talk about who should attend the Partners Conference?
Absolutely. As Gail pointed out, it's got a very diverse group of people, not only on the committee, but those who should attend. The idea here is to bring together the public and private sectors in a wide range of emergency management and emergency response fields. Also include like the health community, nonprofits, utilities, schools, law enforcement, fire, and many, many others. And it's not just Washington State. We're talking about people from across the nation into Canada. So a wide spectrum of people. And Gail briefly mentioned our monthly webinars that she and I both co-host. The result of that has really more than doubled the number of contacts we have, not just in the Pacific Northwest, but across the nation.
So who are the kind of ideal sponsors and exhibitors for this conference?
Okay, well, anytime anybody has anything to do with supporting emergency preparedness, they're the vendors that have products and services. They come and are exhibitors. The sponsors mean, this can be anything from whether you have you're selling radios for communication, or you have web-based communications, just your basic products that you might have that you want to promote, or bigger promotions like the Verizon or telecommunication company could be good sponsors. So it's a really broad base because there's a lot of people and organizations that support disasters and emergencies.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do a quick statistic. Of course, about 60% of our industry in emergency management actually is made up of the corporate sector. So, and then of course, the public and nonprofits are really critical too, but about 60% of the workforce. So that is, makes it important to have those exhibitors there as well. Kellie, we haven't heard from you much, and I'm going to give you, this is probably one of the things you've dealt with now for the last 2 years plus, but can you talk about the impact of the pandemic and what on the partners' effort?
Yeah, absolutely. Much like everybody else, the pandemic has certainly created some challenges. In fact, I can say personally that the last in-person meeting that I had prior to the shutdown was with Ted when we went to go visit Org Support Event Support, which is our event management group, and didn't think about it at the time that would be the last meeting that we were going to have. I mean, we were in full-blown, preparedness mode to put on the conference in just a few months, and we were going down to meet our team and super excited about it. And then a few weeks later, it was like, I wonder what's going to happen. And all of us were wondering what was going to happen. And then it became a bit more serious when our community was saying things like, why haven't you canceled? Why are you still promoting? Why are we doing this? We should be the leaders in this arena, telling people how we should be responding. And we were kind of in a pinch. The contract that we had to abide to, the only way that we could keep partners in its current state was to wait for the governor to make a decision to mandate that large events were no longer going to happen. And it was 2 weeks prior to our go date that the governor did shut down large events. And it was a blessing in retrospect, because had that not happened, we probably wouldn't be talking to you here today, because partners would have completely gone away. There's no doubt in my mind that had that not happened, partners would not be here today.
Wow. Yeah.
So as a result of that, we quickly upon that were able to, put a hold on that conference, have them hold our monies for the following year. And as it turns out, we all know the following year. But we all came together as a committee and really were strategizing as to how could we continue to make partners relevant? How can we continue to be assisting our partners in becoming better partners and continuing that networking? And that's when we came up with the idea for the webinar series that Ted mentioned earlier. And it really was aimed at continuing that networking potential combined with that educational component, which is so critical to our mission. And we, as Ted and Gail have done so well, we've done it monthly since July of 2020. And then we hosted a virtual conference in October of that same year, with the hopes that we would be coming back in person in April of 21. Of course, we know that didn't happen. And we continued with our webinar series, and we came back full force this year. So we had our in-person conference in April of 2022. And I guess I should note that I was actually the interim chair and was supposed to be on from October of 2019 till April of 2020. But I promised Ted I would not leave until we did an in-person conference. So my interim chair position lasted longer than my original chair position. So It's been quite the ride. It's definitely had some impacts on, as we all hate this word, but pivoting. We've pivoted again, and we continue to pivot. Because as a result of not having the conferences, we also haven't had any revenue. And as a result of that, it puts us in a bit of a hardship as we enter into this next year.
And Kellie, why don't you talk a little bit more about then what the current need is that this organization has, and from its members and perhaps new members and etc.
That's an excellent question, because we do need, we need a lot. We need our community to come and help us in ways that we've never had to ask for before. At the conference, we made it very clear that we were in a challenged state economically, and there were several members, including you, Linda, coming to us and encouraging us and saying, let's figure out a way to make this work. And I think without that community, it wouldn't happen. So, you know, I want to personally thank everyone who heard us and came to us with ideas. On a tangible level, we really need people to come help us. This year, we didn't have many committee members. And so we didn't have enough committee members to assign people to introduce speakers, which is something that we had done on the regular years past. But we just simply didn't have enough committee members to be able to provide that service to the speakers and the attendees and the breakout sessions. In addition to that, we need additional funding. So we, as you mentioned, we're a nonprofit organization, so people can make monetary donations that are tax write-offs. We can also be a Smile Amazon. You know, you could choose Partners in Emergency Preparedness as your, you know, nonprofit organization that you want to give your 2% back from Smile Amazon to partners. And then lastly, I would say that I would ask that the community be creative with us and help us find those solutions. We had quite a few people come up to us and suggest things at the conference, but since it's kind of gone down a little bit in sense of reaching out to us, so I would encourage people to come back if you have fresh ideas. We are open, and we recognize that we have a vast array of mental wealth in our community, and we ask for assistance there.
That's an excellent point and message, Kellie. And Ted, maybe just share with us, what do you expect in the future?
Well, I think Kellie hit a lot of key points there. One of them is we really need more committee members. We need a lot of diversity there that really echoes our audience. So public sector, private sector, nonprofits, utilities, etc., will really help expand our committee membership that will better serve our overall community conference attendance and all those that attend. We do plan to continue the monthly webinars, and we are certainly aiming for another conference for the spring of 23. And I do want to point out, if you want to join the committee or if you want to contribute, we are a 501(c) nonprofit. You can do that at PIEPC.org. There's a form there to fill out if you want to join the committee, as well as any donation, $10, $50, whatever the amount may be. All of it will be helpful as we rebound from the gut punch that COVID-19 has given this conference. I also want to point out one other thing that's a real incentive not only to support the conference, but to attend the conference. And that is for those who are either getting their Certified Emergency Management or CEM or are renewing them. This conference will help in that application process.
That was a great closure, guys, and thank you. I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers as well today. Today, April 27th, by the way, is Earth Day. And we know that the world is facing some dramatic impacts from global warming. And we are going to need, and you've heard this message from all three of our guests today, we are going to need more and more people capable of preparing for, helping us do that, responding to, and helping our community to recover from disasters. This interview will be, we will have it in our Confluence News magazine, which the center publishes every month. Thank you, Kellie, Ted, and Gail. I think that a lot of people are listening, and I hope that we get a lot of response in the process. We need volunteers, folks. It is critical. It is critical for a number of our nonprofits and certainly for our communities. Thank you. Please help.
Stay safe, and we hope to see you at future Partners in Emergency Preparedness Conference events.